Did you know that in 1902, John D. Rockefeller co-founded the General Education Board with an initial $1 million contribution? That same $1 million in 1902's money is worth over $3.5 billion today. That's pretty crazy. John D. Rockefeller is also quoted on saying, "I want a nation of workers, not thinkers." Let that sink in. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Gobin, and I'm here to teach you guys about financial education. On this channel, I'll talk about everything and anything related to finance as well as just money in general. Today, I want to give you guys my top 3 tips for financial education. I think that financial education is one of the most powerful skills that somebody can have. Not having an understanding of how money works can definitely put you in a pretty dangerous place down the line. And if you stick around long enough, I'll share with you some bonus tips as well, which can take you even further. Even if you're not a beginner, feel free to stay around for the entire video and give me your own comments and feedback as well as maybe your own tips down below. I'm currently an undergrad student at a business school in the Boston area, so I guess that's where I get my credibility from. But there's also lots of information online that even you can find and become an expert yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it. But it is getting pretty dark out here and chilly, so off to the new film location. Okay, I hope you guys enjoy that little 10-second long transition of me getting here. But now I am ready, and I hope you're ready to get right into the main content of this video. So the first thing that I want to talk about, which as you can see I've written right behind me, is budgeting. I think budgeting is the perfect place to start because whether you have a job right now or if somebody just handed you money, budgeting essentially answers the question of what do you do with your money? And a lot of Americans do have some idea of budgeting, but in practice, it doesn't really work. Actually, there was a survey conducted in just August 2022, so pretty recently as of the time of this video being posted, and it showed that over 45% of Americans who earn over $100,000 annually are actually living paycheck to paycheck. So what that means is that their amount of money that they bring in is just meeting however much money that they're spending, which we're about to dive deeper into, and you'll understand those two, hopefully, within the next few minutes. But ideally, you want your revenue, however much money you're bringing in, to be exceeding your costs, and hopefully by a sizable margin. So let's break down those terms a little bit that I just mentioned if you're unfamiliar with them. Starting off with your income, your net income. How much money are you raking in every single year, essentially, or every single month, if you want to break it down monthly? And you can look in, if you have a job, you already know however much money you're getting paid monthly. But you may also have other forms of income, such as if you own some stocks, for instance, certain stocks will pay dividends, which is a portion of a company's revenues, which are getting sent to their shareholders, which may be you. So dividends is another form of income. Maybe you get tips from wherever you work, or maybe you get Social Security money or disability, for instance. So there's a lot of different ways and factors which could bring money in for you, and you just need to add them all up essentially and see how much money am I getting. And then once you've calculated that number, you need to look at the flip side of things essentially, how much money is going out. But not only just how much money is going out, but more importantly, where is that money going? So if you're making $50,000 a year, and if you look at your credit card bill and you're spending $5,000 every single month at Gucci, I hope you're not doing that because it doesn't really make sense to be doing that. So you need to understand where is your money going. That's the number one thing which will help you succeed financially. Or maybe you're paying for a Netflix subscription that you're not really using, or Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. If you're not using them or benefiting from it, you're just handing out money to other people. Another thing as a part of your expenses may be any high interest debt that you may carry. So that primarily would probably be credit card debt if you carry any. Because credit card debt, the way that I'll put it is if you pull out your wallet, then you grab a vegetable peeler and you just start scraping at it. Because carrying high interest debt is skinning you of your money. And that's the last thing that anybody wants. So do not carry any high interest credit card debt. If you do have credit card debt right now, that should be your number one priority to get rid of. It's like 20% interest yearly or monthly. It's just absurd. So I would definitely say get rid of that. You should also look at maybe have some other debts, maybe lower interest debts. Maybe you have a mortgage on a house. Obviously, you should be paying that on time. You may also have some fixed costs, like let's say you're renting your place. So of course you want to be paying your rent on time and not be causing any issues with your landlord, because that's never too good. But I would also say that you need to understand what is your financial position and what are your financial goals moving forward. Do you want to save money? Do you want to invest your money? Do you want to pay off all your debts, which hopefully, if it's, like I said, those high interest debts, you want to get rid of those as soon as possible. Or do you want to own your house by paying off that long-term debt? So that's kind of going to vary by person. But one thing that I will say is that everybody should create a emergency cushion sort of savings account where, especially given what's been going on recently with layoffs happening left and right, just yesterday, as of the time that I'm filming this, Meta or Facebook, as you may know them, they laid off 13% or over 10,000 people in their workforce in just a day. And that's just one company. I could fill this entire board with examples of companies that have been doing layoffs the last few weeks and months. So yeah, I definitely have some degree of an emergency savings account. Okay, I'm just going to pause myself right there. This is Gobin from the future, editing Gobin, and I wanted to clarify some things. So you start off with your income on top, you have all of your expenses, and then you have this bottom line, that green line right there. And there's a few different ways that you can go with your money at that point. So one of them, as I just talked about, was creating that emergency fund. Another thing is debt repayments. Investing is another great way. So there's just a couple. There's definitely a lot others. But what I wanted to say was that you don't want to be putting your money anywhere here until after you've paid off all of your credit card balances, after you've paid for your living expenses, after you've paid for insurance, after you've paid for student loans, etc. So just wanted to make that quick little note. But anyways, let's get you right back into the video. Because also, let's say your car breaks down or if a window breaks in your house, you got to repair it. And how are you going to do that if you don't have money? So that would be everything about budgeting, I'd say, for beginners. Yeah, so that's budgeting. Let's move on to tip number 2, which is all about credit cards. Credit cards can be extremely powerful or they can be extremely harmful. It all depends on how you're using them, which is exactly why I want to teach you how to use them the right way. Let's start with this. I'll often tell people that Americans work really hard. Let's say you earn $1,000 in a week. The problem is that people will go out the following day and shop just as hard and spend that same $1,000. Now your $1,000 is gone and you didn't have any form of budgeting and you have to pay all of these other expenses which you don't have money for. I've actually altered it, and now I've realized to say that Americans work really hard still and they'll make their $1,000. The problem is that they'll go out and spend $2,000 the following day. Well, how are they able to do that? It's through the power of credit cards. Allow me to explain. You see, there's a lot of competitiveness within the credit card industry itself, so it essentially is good for the consumer in the sense that it allows us to get all sorts of perks and benefits, such as sign-up bonuses, or let's say if you travel outside of the United States, you won't have any transaction fees. But the main reason why I'll say that credit cards are so powerful is because they can allow us to get loans quicker, and they can also give us lower interest rates on those loans, which can be pretty pivotal. The problem is, though, that a lot of Americans struggle paying their credit cards back. In fact, I found this survey on Yahoo Finance in which they talk about that over 14 million Americans actually carry over $10,000 worth of credit card debt. And that should be an alarming figure for you. In order for you to not contribute to that pile of 14 million Americans, what I want you to do is become a financially responsible person. And being a financially responsible person consists of two things, really. The first thing is not spending more than you can pay back, and number 2 is paying back on time. If you're spending more than you can afford to pay back, you're kind of screwed, because there's only really 2 options, and one could be getting money from a friend, and the second option would be paying the minimum balance on your credit card and carrying over the remainder to the following months and paying interest on that. But as I told you guys just a few minutes ago, the last thing you want is to have high interest debt like credit card balances. The second thing is always paying on time, because a lot of people don't know this, but actually late payments, not only are you hit with a 30 to 50, if not higher, dollar fee, but also it does alter your credit score. The thing is that the altercation on your credit score only comes after 30 days. But that's about it for credit cards. Just be a financially responsible person and pay back on time. If you're 18 years old or older, I highly recommend that you get a credit card. Just please remember to be financially responsible and don't spend more than you're able to pay back. And of course, pay back on time. Investing is a very smart way to put your money to work and to effectively build wealth. So let's break it down a bit. You see, you and I can only work a certain amount of hours in a day. Even if you work all 24 hours in a day, at some point in time, you're going to absolutely burn out and just crash. But money, on the other hand, can work 365 days a year, 24 hours in a day, every single second. As long as you want it to work, it will work. That's exactly why it's so powerful. You see, right now, there's a lot of inflation in our economy. It's actually about 7.7% is the most recent number, which is extremely high, by the way. They're trying to get it down to roughly 3%, 2%. And it's at over 7.5%, which is the highest it's been for literally 40 years, which is quite wild. But through smart investing, we are able to outpace inflation and increase our money's value. You see, with inflation being so high right now, essentially, if you had $100 a year ago, today, it would have lost $7.70 in value. However, through investing, over the long run, our money generally doesn't lose its value over time. Here's what I mean. You may have heard of the S&P 500 before. It's essentially just an index in the stock market which tracks the top 500 largest companies in the United States that are traded publicly. The S&P 500 has also returned an average of 10% yearly for the last 50 years. Saving your way to wealth is possible, but it's a lot harder than investing your way to wealth. Investing poses several benefits. One of them, as I just discussed, was being able to combat and actually beat out inflation. Another would be earning long-term returns. You see, by investing consistently, that's possibly the best thing that you could do, because your money will only grow exponentially. By investing, you can also be meeting your financial goals, which you may have set up during the budgeting phase. Additionally, investing can serve as another stream of income. And if you look at any wealthy person, they didn't get wealthy by just working one job. They had one job, they had another stream of income, they had a business, they had this and that. They get wealthy by having several streams of income. And investing will only add another stream of income for you. And lastly, investing is extremely important when thinking about planning for retirement. By saving now and planning ahead for retirement, you can ensure that by the time you do retire, you'll be able to comfortably continue your standard of living past retirement. And the number one reason that you should invest is for retirement purposes. Because at some point in time, you're going to want to retire, and maybe you'll even want to retire early. And the way that you'll be able to retire early is by investing even more now. And if you do have a job right now, you actually may be able to save for retirement through a 401k plan, which may be provided. There are also a lot of other retirement plans that you can create, and if you guys want to know more about that, again, I can make a video regarding that. Saving for retirement may sound like a really daunting task, especially if you're also similar to my age, where you're pretty young and thinking that, decades from now, that seems really far from now, and planning for that may seem like a big step ahead. However, actually, the longer that you wait to start investing and the longer that you wait to start planning for retirement, the more difficult it will be to ensure that you will have a comfortable retirement. So that is exactly why you should start investing now or today. I think that about sums up everything that you would need to know at a rather basic level in terms of investing. So I guess that caps off the video. Just kidding. That's because it's time for the bonus tips. Let's start off with this. Did you know that if you had a penny and if you continued to double it every single day for 30 days, you would have over $5.3 million? But if you only doubled it for 27 days, just 4 days less, you wouldn't even have $700,000. I mean, $700,000 is still a lot of money, but $700,000 versus $5.3 million is a big difference. So that brings me on to tip number 1, which is the power of compound interest, which all goes back to what I was talking about just now about how important it is to start investing and start investing as soon as possible. The more time that you give your money to grow, the more it will compound and the more money that you'll have essentially. And who doesn't want to have more money? So That's tip number one, compound interest. The second thing is a pretty simple thing, but I feel like it's often overlooked, and it's just having good health. Because at the end of the day, how are you going to be able to enjoy all this money that you've amassed your entire life and that you've worked so hard for if you don't have good health? So just make sure that you are incorporating some sort of exercise into your routine and that you stay healthy. And that's about it. Okay guys, thanks so much. If you made it this far in the video, it means a lot. It's almost 15 minutes. I know it's definitely a lot of your time, and it took me almost 20 hours just to make this video. So if you have any interest, amazing pun, in content like this or just things related to finance, be sure to like the video and subscribe. And even if you know a friend who may be able to learn something from this or also has interest in content like this, be sure to send it to them. With all that in mind though, I do want to say and disclose for legal purposes that nothing stated in this video is for financial advice purposes, and it was all for your entertainment. I hope you guys were definitely able to learn from this, and again, let me know if you want to see more. So with that being said, have a good day, night, morning, whatever it may be, and I'll see you in the next one.